8 is a cumulative frequency curve, and we're told that we have 800 students, and it's how long it takes them to get to school, so their commute. The first thing I would always check with a cumulative frequency is that the graph ends at the number that it says. Sometimes you'll find that, for example, it goes up to 700, but the scale happens to go higher. And then when we start to halve it and so on to find our pieces of data, it can often be a bit misleading because we just take the top of our graph, even if the curve doesn't go all the way to the top of the graph. So I think that's always something that's good to check at the start of a cumulative frequency curve question. But on this one, it does go up to 800. That is the top of our chart, and then it finishes in that top corner. So the first thing we need to do is to find the interquartile range. If I have 800 pieces of data, the median would be at 400, and therefore the quartiles are going to be half of that again, so 200 and 600. So it's just where it splits my data up into quarters. So to find the interquartile range, I need to mark on my chart and find what those values would be. And you can see here the first one is a little bit less than 20, maybe 19. But it's not quite, even if we zoom in here, you can see it's not quite at 20. And then for 600, again, we're going to go across. And again, you can see there, it's actually just past the value of 40. Okay, so whilst there's a little bit of leeway in there, we do want to make sure that we're not kind of just conforming to the whole values if it's not necessarily one. So if, like on this one, it's deliberately bigger than or less than, then you need to make sure that your numbers reflect that as well. So we've got 19 and 41. So the interquartile range is going to be the upper quartile, subtract the lower quartile, which is giving you 22. So that question is 3 marks. There is going to be one method for using the graph. There is another method for subtracting correctly, and then one for the answer. And then the second part of the question says determine the minimum commute time that the top 10% of students have to take. So 10% of students is going to be 80. So 10% is equal to 80. So I now need to find where 80 students are, and that's going to be at 720. So it's the top 80 students, which is why I've took them from the 800 at the top there. We're interested in this section here. And if I work down there, and this is why it can be quite helpful to have a ruler in the exam. So that looks to be around about 48 perhaps. It's definitely just over this marker here. And therefore it would take them, again, we're interested in this part here, and therefore this side, because it's the top 80, the top 10%, the top 80 students. So it is taking them more than 48 minutes. And we're not too bothered about the more or equal to, more or not equal to. It's a cumulative frequency. It's all estimated to some extent. So it's just more than 48 minutes or 48 minutes or more. And again, that's 3 marks. One of them is for correctly using the graph. One is going to be for indicating somewhere that you knew that 10% was 80 students. And that could just be from reading it off here. And then one is for the answer.